Caitlin Clark's rookie year, drawing record viewership, record attendance, and what did we hear? It's not because of Caitlin Clark. This was always going to happen. It was just a matter of time. Okay. Year 2, Caitlin Clark only plays in 13 games. What? The WNBA still puts up record viewership? So the WNBA, heading into year 3, has decided to double down on the "we never needed Caitlin Clark in the first place" narrative.
WNBA is acting like it doesn't need Caitlin Clark. They cut big arena fever road games from 9 to 4. Meanwhile, Nike drops Caitlin gear and the demand goes crazy. That's the whole story. And it's why fans are turning on the league. ESPN can debate impact all day, but the WNBA speaks with decisions. Here's the decision. Last season, Indiana had 9 road games moved into larger arenas. This season, it's 4. And no, the league didn't stop moving games. It moved more games overall. It went from 15 arena moves last season to 19 this season. So the league is shifting more games, but the Fever are getting fewer of the upgrades. That's why this title lands.
Last year, they had 9 games in the beginning of the season in big NBA arenas. This year, that number is down to 4 games, yet the league has went from 15 games last year, 19 games in NBA arenas this year. Teams move fewer Fever visits after Caitlin Clark's injury-riddled season. Indiana had 9 road games moved to larger arenas last year, but just 4 so far for 2026. WNBA teams are moving more games to different arenas this upcoming season, but Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever have significantly fewer of those games.
Because even if nobody says the words out loud, the schedule is sending a message. Now, a fair pushback is, maybe it's just logistics. Fine, but picture the situation like a business. You run a venue. You see one opponent coming to town that spikes demand. You have proof from last season, you have resale prices, and you have sellouts. Do you go smaller? Or do you grab the biggest building you can? That's what makes this feel intentional. And in about 20 seconds, I'm going to give you the one move that proves the league blinked. The quiet pivot they always make when the money forces their hand. But first, the clearest receipt.
And the conversation being is the treatment of Caitlin Clark. Ever since Caitlin Clark has got into this league, it's always obstacle after obstacle for this young lady. And it's clear to me, and it should be clear to all of you guys, that there is a hidden agenda against Caitlin Clark for her to be successful in the WNBA. Now, I know some of you guys is thinking, John, what do you mean it's a hidden agenda? Let's start with the first year. You know, she was attacked by pretty much players. Second year, attacked again, but the whistle was just so horrible for Caitlin. She never seen the free throw line at all prior to her getting hurt.
The Fever averaged 15,884 fans on the road last season. That's about 4,000 more than any other team. That gap is not normal. That gap is a single-player economy. People aren't buying WNBA tickets. They're buying Caitlin tickets. So when you reduce big arena Fever games from 9 to 4, you create 2 problems. Problem 1, you leave money on the table. Problem 2, you create suspicion. Because fans don't interpret this as operational caution. They interpret it as gatekeeping. They read it as, you're trying to prove you don't need her. Now zoom in on what that looks like in the real world. A smaller venue. A Fever game announced, tickets vanish, resale jumps, fans travel anyway. The building feels tight, the vibe turns sour. That's not just a bad night, that's a trust leak. Because the fan thinks, you knew demand was coming. Now here's what makes the timing brutal. This is happening while the league is also dealing with bigger uncertainty in the background. Scheduling windows, arena availability, and the fact that big buildings don't hold dates forever. NBA arenas have concerts, they have events, they have other bookings. If you don't lock dates early, you don't maybe miss out. You lose the option completely, and so you can call it logistics, but fans see a choice. And that choice becomes the story. Now let's swing to the other half of the title, Nike. Because while the WNBA schedule shrinks Caitlyn's big arena footprint, Nike is getting hit by the opposite force: demand. Here's the Nike scene people can visualize. It's midnight. The drop goes live, fans refresh, pages stall, checkout fails. The internet floods with screenshots. The viral claim in that Nike story is insane. A $40 shirt, a new Caitlyn logo, and supposedly a wave of traffic so heavy it overwhelmed the system. The story says 10 million site visits and 500,000 orders before things crashed. Are those exact numbers inflated? Maybe. But the signal's still real. Nike doesn't accidentally get caught off guard by normal demand. Nike is built for launches. Therefore, if Caitlyn triggers chaos in that machine, she's not moving like a regular player. She's moving like a superstar. And here's what matters: the WNBA can downplay Caitlyn with a schedule, but it can't outvote the market. And in a moment, I'll show you the exact pressure point where the league will be forced to switch directions. Because Nike demand isn't just merch, it's leverage. When one player sells like that, everything downstream shifts. Sponsors lean in, broadcasters lean in, owners lean in, and the league's tone changes too, even if they pretend it won't. That's why this conflict can't last. The WNBA is sending one signal: fewer big buildings. Nike is sending another: bigger than ever. Those two realities can't coexist for long. One of them has to move. And we already know which one moves: the league. Because the money always pulls the league back to reality. Now let's talk about why fans get nasty over this. It's not because fans think the WNBA should worship one player. It's because fans hate one thing more than anything: disrespect. Fans show up. Fans spend. Fans travel. Fans bring friends. And if they feel like the league is resisting the moment out of pride, they revolt. They don't say, "Oh, interesting strategy." They say, "You're sabotaging the best thing you've got." And that becomes the narrative that spreads. Now here's the tell that reveals the WNBA has changed its mind. It's not a press release, it's not a headline, it's not ESPN, and it's late venue upgrades. Watch what happens after the schedule is already out. If you start seeing Fever Road games quietly moved into bigger arenas later, that's the league blinking. That's teams admitting the demand forced their hand. That's the silent confession that "we don't need Caitlyn" doesn't survive contact with ticket sales. And when that starts happening, three things show up right away. 1, more moved to a larger venue announcements. 2, resale spikes around Fever games. 3, broadcast windows quietly improve for Indiana matchups. Because once the machine realizes where the attention is, it stops arguing. It starts adjusting, so don't get distracted by speeches, watch the moves. Because the WNBA can say it's bigger than one player. But Nike just reminded everyone what the public already decided.
It might be a wrap, y'all. I'm losing hope. I'm losing faith. It might be a wrap, especially considering what the MVP and WNBA champion Asia Wilson just had to say about this CBA.
ESPN is going to love this one because it hits every button people can't ignore. Team USA, a superstar, and a rumor that says someone got pushed out so Caitlyn Clark could step in. Now listen carefully. People are throwing the word "fired" around. But right now, what's blowing up online is a story, not a clean official roster release you can point to. And the reason it's going viral is because it feels believable. Stay with me to the end, because I'm going to give you a simple 3-signal checklist that tells you when a Team USA roster story is real, and when you're being played for clicks. Here's the story the internet is pushing.
This is exactly what I'm talking about. This is the delusion. This is the entitlement that is prevalent throughout the WNBA dump. This victim mentality, blaming everyone else for your history of huge embarrassing failure. This refusal to accept responsibility for the fact that this league has been pretending to be in business for 30 years and has still never turned a profit. And I say pretending to be in business because If the WNBA were operating like an actual business, this league would be bankrupt.
It starts with a phone call. They say Asia Wilson picks up, thinking it's the usual Team USA check-in. Schedules, camp details, normal stuff. But instead, she hears the one sentence no veteran wants to hear. You're not on the roster, not we're adjusting your role, not we're shifting minutes. The story says she's just off. And the transcript version adds one detail designed to hit you in the gut. Right after the call, Asia allegedly texts her agent 3 words. 3 words. That forces your brain to fill in the emotion, shock, anger, betrayal. Therefore, even people who don't like Asia click, because they want to know what the 3 words were. But here's where it gets bigger than one call. The rumor claims Team USA didn't do this because Asia can't play. That would be ridiculous. It claims they did it because the environment changed, because the spotlight changed, because Caitlin Clark is now the center of the attention economy in women's basketball. The story says Asia spent 2 years taking shots at Caitlin, questioning her impact, undermining her achievements, and it says it finally backfired. Now, I'm not telling you any of that is confirmed. I'm telling you why this rumor spreads like fire.
KTV was slipping. Shout out to Christine Brennan. Team USA, y'all need to stop playing. Hold on, wait a second. Y'all will recognize and appreciate Caitlin Clark as the face of this whole get up. Nobody's checking for these other, no disrespect. Great basketball players. That don't mean people checking for you. You mean to tell me y'all put other people's face all on the Team USA stuff and y'all left Caitlin Clark off of it? Have you lost your mind?
Doesn't have time for petty stuff. They believe international basketball is ruthless. Short camps, hard cuts, no patience. Therefore, the rumor feels like something Team USA would do if they thought chemistry was even slightly off. And here's the fear factor. If the internet can sell the idea that Asia Wilson is expendable, then every player hears the message. Nobody is safe if the organization decides the next era matters more than the old order. But the craziest part of this story isn't Asia, it's Caitlin. Because look, the rumor doesn't just say Caitlin makes the roster. It says she replaces Asia, it says she gets the keys, starting point guard, the engine. That's the part that triggers the comment wars. To some fans, it feels like disrespect, but to others, it feels like the future. So let's separate what's real from what's narrative. What is real is that USA Basketball has been running this cycle through camps and evaluation pools, and credible coverage has already placed Caitlin Clark in the senior national team training camp environment alongside young stars and Olympic vets. That's not a starting point guard stamp, but it is a signal. Therefore, once Caitlin is in the room, the internet does what it always does. It builds a story where the old guard gets displaced and it picks a symbol. This time, that symbol is Asia Wilson. Now, if you want my honest take, the reason this rumor is sticky is because it matches what international basketball actually values. FIBA play is not the WNBA. Different whistles, different spacing, different rhythm. You don't get the same time to figure it out. Therefore, Team USA selection isn't only about who is the best in the W on a random Tuesday night. It's about who adapts fast, who fits in a short camp, and who can create advantages immediately. And Caitlin's style travels. The passing travels, the pace travels, the deep shooting travels, the ability to create a shot for someone else with one read, that travels. But it also comes with something Team USA can't ignore anymore. Attention. Because when Caitlin is on the floor, every possession becomes a clip. Every clip becomes pressure. Therefore, she doesn't just change the game, she changes the environment around the game. And that's where this rumor becomes a warning. If you're a veteran who publicly fights the league's biggest attention magnet, you create friction with the very thing that is growing the sport. Team USA doesn't want friction. They want alignment. They want winning. So here's the question you should be asking. If Team USA believes Caitlin can run the offense and also bring the world's eyes with her, Would they be willing to annoy people to lock in that future? That's what this rumor is really testing. It's testing whether the sport has moved from respect the hierarchy to follow the gravity. Now, I promised you a payoff. Here's the 3-signal checklist to tell if a Team USA roster story is real. Signal 1, primary source. Did USA Basketball or FIBA publish it directly? Not a clip channel, not a caption account, a direct release, direct tracker. If it's not there, treat it as unconfirmed. Signal 2, multiple reputable confirmations. Do at least 2 established outlets report the same roster detail, and do they point to real documents or real officials? If one account says official and nobody else backs it up, that's not official, and that's marketing. Signal 3, the timeline makes sense. Team USA doesn't fire people like a workplace. They build pools, invite to camp, and then select for specific windows. Therefore, if the story skips the process and jumps straight to a dramatic cut, be suspicious. If all 3 signals line up, then you've got something. If they don't, then you're watching roster theater. But here's the part that matters. Even if this rumor is fake, this is where women's basketball is going. More attention, more politics, more leverage, more fear. And the moment Team USA actually puts Caitlyn in a major role, the sport's power map shifts. Not just on the court, in the media, in endorsements, in who gets defended, in who gets blamed. So I'll end with one simple question. If you were building Team USA for the next era, would you build around Caitlyn's gravity, even if it upset the old hierarchy? If you're still watching, drop Team USA shift in the comments.
But we have to talk about this. This is absolutely embarrassing from ESPN. So this is ESPN at the ESPYs. This is the ESPYs from Shane Gillis. Let's take a listen. I can't show a clip just for copyright reasons. Let's take a listen to what he said.
When Caitlin Clark retires from the WNBA, she's going to work at a Waffle House so she can continue doing what she loves most, fist-fighting black women.
What?
ESPN, Caitlin Clark just got left out, and fans snapped. And I'm going to promise you something up front. If you stay to the end, I'm going to give you a simple 3-signal checklist that predicts when a small Caitlyn moment is about to turn into a full-blown league-wide firestorm before it floods your feed, because this story looks tiny on the surface. But it hits the exact nerve that makes people go from calm to furious in about 10 seconds. Here's what happened. Indiana Fever jumped on the 2016 throwback trend. You've seen it everywhere. Teams posting old photos, old uniforms, old moments. It's meant to be harmless nostalgia. But the Fever posted their 2016 throwbacks, and Caitlin Clark wasn't in it. Now, in a normal universe, that's a shrug. In the Caitlin Clark universe, that's a match to dry grass. Because the fans don't process it as oops. They process it as there it is again.
It looked like Caitlin Clark takes to social media and calls out ESPN. Now, there's a lot of stuff that is going on behind the scenes in regards to Caitlin Clark, potentially being on the roster, not being on the roster, which I'm going to do that in a whole nother video. But we have to talk about this because a lot of people have been saying that Caitlin Clark been kind of weak, not standing on business. She's just been letting the league and networks say whatever about her and all these different things. Well, I'm here to tell you, there's a new day and age. There's a new time. And Caitlin Clark standing on big business. Want to know why Caitlin Clark standing on big business? She got big business teammates.
The omission, the avoiding, the subtle message that she's not meant to be the center of the story, even when she's the center of the attention. And Caitlin herself notices. She comments, simple, sharp, can't be got. That line alone is why this popped. Because it reads like, you tried to do a trend, and somehow you still missed the biggest name on your own roster. Then the Fever reply back, basically saying, we looked, we scrolled. We didn't have a proper 2016 throwback to use. And that explanation might even be true. In 2016, Caitlin was a teenager. She wasn't a pro. There isn't a clean WNBA throwback to post, because she wasn't in the league. Therefore, the technical explanation is reasonable, but that is not how the internet works. The internet doesn't reward reasonable. The internet rewards emotion. And the emotion here is simple. How do you miss her? How do you post a trend that is literally about memories and not include the player who is currently driving the most attention your franchise has ever had? And the reaction wasn't just annoyance, it was personal. Because this taps into the biggest fear Caitlyn fans have right now. That the league will do everything it can to control her without ever fully embracing her. That they'll take the benefits, but won't give the credit. That they'll celebrate growth, but won't say her name. And if you think that's dramatic, listen to what happened next. Because this wasn't just one left out moment. This week had a second one. The WNBA Players Association put out messaging around attendance, momentum, the league growing. But fans noticed something they always notice. The language, the framing, who gets highlighted, who gets thanked, who gets named. And Caitlyn's name wasn't there the way fans expected it to be. Now, I'm not saying every post is a conspiracy, but I am saying perception is reality online. And to the average fan, especially the casual fan, it looks like this. The league is happy to cash the checks, but it's uncomfortable giving one person too much credit. Therefore, the left out moment stops being about a social media trend. It becomes a symbol, and symbols are dangerous because they spread faster than facts. Here's the deeper reason this blew up. Omissions hit harder than insults. If someone insults Caitlyn, fans argue, they defend, they throw stats. But when you omit her, it feels like you're trying to erase her. And that triggers something primal in people. It triggers injustice. It triggers betrayal. It triggers the feeling of, you're using us. Because Caitlyn isn't just a player at this point, she's a movement. And movements don't like being managed. But let's be fair for a second, Caitlyn's second season didn't go the way anyone expected. Injuries slowed her down. Limited games, derailment, and that should have cooled down the attention, right? No. It did the opposite. Because when she's not playing, the conversation fills the gap. Fans don't go quiet, they get louder. They start scanning for signals. They start watching how the league talks about her when she's not on the court forcing the story. Therefore, every small omission becomes a test. A test of respect. A test of intent. A test of whether the league really understands what it's holding. But here's where it gets even more important. Because while all this is happening inside the WNBA ecosystem, outside of it, the machine is moving in the opposite direction. Team USA 2026 talk is already building, and Caitlyn Clark and Paige Buchers are right at the center of those storylines. That's the interesting contrast. Out inside the day-to-day WNBA discourse, you get these moments where fans feel like she's being minimized. But on the global stage, the future is being framed around her generation. And when fans see that contrast, it intensifies everything, because it tells them the world sees it. So why doesn't the league fully embrace it? That's the question that keeps lighting fires. And that's why you should take this seriously if you're a creator, a fan, or even someone who only watches headlines. This isn't just drama, it's leverage. Because attention is currency. And Caitlyn is an attention magnet. So when a brand or an institution looks like it's downplaying the biggest magnet, it doesn't shrink the magnet. It makes the audience suspicious. It makes them defensive. It makes them feel like they have to fight for her. Therefore, the reaction becomes bigger than the original action. And that's the loop. Small omission, but big backlash, bigger headlines, and more attention, more tension. But here's the part people miss. These blow-ups don't happen randomly, that they follow a pattern. And this is the payoff I promised you. If you want to predict the next Caitlyn firestorm before it happens, look for these 3 signals. Signal number 1, a public omission where she should be present. A graphic, a highlight reel, a promo, a list, a trend post. It doesn't have to be malicious, it just has to be visible, because the moment it's visible, it becomes screenshot fuel. Signal number 2, a screenshotable reaction, a comment from Caitlyn, a teammate reply, a subtle clapback, a quote that can be reposted in one line. Because one clean line travels farther than a paragraph of explanation. Can't Be God is a perfect example. It's short, it's sharp, it's shareable. Signal number 3, a second institution echoes the omission vibe. This is the amplifier. a union post, a media segment, a brand graphic, a commentator framing it as disrespect or erasure. Once that happens, it stops being a single moment. It becomes a narrative. And narratives are what go viral. Therefore, when you see Signal 1 plus Signal 2 together, expect Signal 3 to arrive fast. Sometimes within a day, sometimes within the week, and once all three signals show up in the same window, that's when fans snap. Because it confirms their biggest fear, that Caitlyn can drive the league. But the league still wants to control the story without giving her the center stage. But here's my final take. If the fever explanation is true, then this started as a simple content problem. No clean 2016 throwback, fine. But the reaction proves something more important. The league is no longer allowed to treat Caitlyn like an ordinary player in ordinary situations. Because she's not. Every post is interpreted. Every omission is analyzed. Every silence becomes a headline. Therefore, the smartest move for any team, any league account, any institution is simple. If Caitlyn is part of your world, act like it publicly. Because if you don't, the fans will fill the gap for you. And when fans fill the gap, they don't do it gently. They do it loudly, they do it emotionally, they do it in a way that forces everyone to pick a side.